Hey everyone, welcome back to Stadium Stats. This week we'll be looking at the divisional round of the playoffs. After quite the interesting wild card round, we are down to our final 8 teams, being the Kansas City Chiefs, the Buffalo Bills, the Houston Texans, and the Baltimore Ravens for the AFC, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Detroit Lions, the Green Bay Packers, and the San Francisco 49ers in the NFC. Without further ado, let's get into it. Our first matchup is going to be between the number 3 seeded Kansas City Chiefs and the number 2 seeded Buffalo Bills. And these two teams have a history of meeting in the playoffs. They didn't last year, but the year before is arguably one of the greatest games of all time in NFL history, where the Chiefs were able to pull off a win with down with just 13 seconds left. Patrick Mahomes led a game-winning drive, and that game is just known by everybody as one of the best games of all time. But these two teams have a history of playing exclusively in Kansas City. This is going to be the first time Patrick Mahomes, outside of a Super Bowl, plays a playoff game away. He's only played playoff games in Kansas City. The Chiefs looked really good last week against the Dolphins. Their defense was able to hold the Tyreek Hill and the Dolphins to one big play, which resulted in a touchdown, but there were no points scored outside of that. Their offense also looked really good. Rashee Rice had an amazing playoff debut with over 100 yards and multiple touchdowns. Travis Kelce looked pretty good too, seeing as he's returning to Travis Kelce's playoff form. The Bills, on the other hand, they also looked really good. They destroyed the Steelers. While it was never completely out of hand, the game was never in the Steelers' hands at all. They were down the whole game, and the Bills really controlled that game from start to finish. Josh Allen looked great, didn't turn the ball over. Just a great performance by them. This will be a really interesting matchup because these two teams always have really close games, both regular season and postseason, but this is the first time in the postseason that the Bills get to play at home, and I'm actually going to pick the Bills to win this game. I do think that they're a slightly better team, and I do think having home field advantage, especially with the weather, will be a huge advantage for them. Bills should win this game, but it should be a pretty good one. Up next, we've got the Houston Texans taking on the Baltimore Ravens, and the Texans destroyed the Browns. They won by over 30 points. Nico Collins and C.J. Stroud looked incredible together. C.J. Stroud also had amazing passes to his tight ends, Brevin Jordan and Dalton Schultz. He just looks amazing. He had a near-perfect passer rating in his playoff debut as a rookie. He's the youngest rookie quarterback to ever win a playoff game. He looks unstoppable. That offense looks ridiculous, and they had 2 pick sixes as well on defense. So their defense looks really good too. The problem is they're playing the 1-seeded Ravens, who look like the best team in the NFL and really don't look like they can be stopped by anybody besides their division rivals, who all their division rivals have been eliminated from the playoffs now. The Ravens are the clear best team left in the playoffs, so I am going to pick the Ravens to win this game, but the Texans are really hot, and I wouldn't be surprised if they were able to put up a big fight. The Texans aren't going to go down without swinging. C.J. Stroud is just too good for that, and that passing offense is incredible, and their defense has been able to support them, so I really do think they'll be able to stay in this game, but the Ravens have been able to really beat up on even good opponents, such as the 49ers and the Dolphins, so I wouldn't be surprised if this game did get out of hand, as the Ravens have potential to do that. I am going to pick the Ravens to win. Hopefully it's a close and fun game, but the Ravens should win this game. Looking over to the NFC, we've got a matchup between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Detroit Lions. The Bucs were able to take down the Eagles. The Eagles had been really didn't look very good. The Bucs defense held them to 9 points. Their offense actually was able to put up a ton of points. They put up over 30. Baker Mayfield looked great in his playoff debut for the Buccaneers. And that this team actually looks competent. It didn't during a lot of the regular season, but it looks a lot better now in the postseason. They really do look like they can put up a fight in the playoffs. That being said, the Lions are still a better team. The Lions were able to take down the Los Angeles Rams in a game that really meant a lot for them. It was their first playoff win in over 30 years. It was their first playoff win in Ford Field. And it was just a really impressive performance that they were able to get that win. The Rams are a very good team. They were one of the hottest teams entering the playoffs, and they were able to take them down, even with Matthew Stafford playing amazing football. The Lions' defense does look a little problematic. Their pass defense is letting up a lot of yards. Puka Nacua had an incredible game against them, and Matthew Stafford was really just lighting them up. So their pass defense is definitely concerning, but their run defense looks great, and their offense looks amazing. Sam Laporta was even able to play after being expected not to play due to injury, so that was a huge boost to their offense as well. And the Lions are a very good team. They're relatively well-rounded. I do think that the Buccaneers could take advantage of their pass defense, but the Lions are the better team here. I don't think this game should be as close as the other ones. I actually think the Lions will be able to take care of business pretty easily. However, the Buccaneers have been able to put up a better performance in recent weeks, so I wouldn't be surprised if they were able to put up a fight. And finally, we've got a matchup between the 7-seeded Green Bay Packers and the 1-seeded San Francisco 49ers. The 49ers are coming off a bye. Very well deserved. They were the first NFL team in history to have 2 receivers, a tight end, and a running back, all with over 1,000 scrimmage yards. And their defense also played amazing. They only had a few losses all season, 4 losses, a 3-game losing streak, and then the 1 loss to the Ravens, which definitely hurt them. But they were able to pull off the 1 seed. They got the bye. They're well rested. They're playing the Green Bay Packers, who just made history as the first 7 seed to win a playoff game since the NFL expanded the playoffs. They were able to take down the Dallas Cowboys, who were the number 2 seed, and it was a really impressive performance by the Packers. Unfortunately, as somebody who hates the Packers, I hate to say it, Jordan Love looked really, really good in that game. He looks like the guy for that team. I won't jump the gun and say that he's the next Hall of Famer behind Rodgers and Favre, but he looks like their franchise quarterback, and you really can't argue that, especially after that performance. He, just like C.J. Stroud, also had a near-perfect passer rating, played really, really well, was able to just always find an open receiver. Romeo Doubs had an incredible game, over 150 yards, and receivers were just open on every play. Aaron Jones as well had 3 rushing touchdowns, and they put up 50 points on the Packers. Their defense looked great in the first half, definitely let up a lot of points in garbage time, but that's not as concerning because it was garbage time. But the Packers defense has been problematic at times during the season. Joe Barry, their defensive coordinator, has definitely had some issues, but he's definitely stepped it up in the past few weeks as they've let up a lot less points against the Vikings, the Bears, and then recently against the Cowboys up until the final minutes of the game. That being said, the 49ers are the 1 seed for a reason. They should be able to take care of business here. These 2 teams have a history of meeting in the playoffs, and the 49ers tend to dominate in those matchups. They've won each of the last few times they've played. They played in 2019 where the Niners destroyed the Packers. They played in 2021 when the Packers were the 1 seed and the Niners were the 6 seed. And the Niners were still able to take down the Packers. The Niners do have the Packers number, and I think they'll get the win here, and I really hope they do. As a 49ers fan and as somebody who hates the Packers, I really hope that this game goes to the Niners. Now time for the power rankings. In at number 8, I've got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They are definitely deserving to be in the playoffs. They did win their division. However, their division was the weakest in the NFL. They did still win a playoff game, which was definitely impressive, and they do look like a good team. They just don't look like the rest of the competition in the playoffs. They look a little step behind most of those teams. Their defense has some problems. Baker Mayfield is limited, but he's been playing great football, and I wouldn't put it past them to get another win. I just can't reasonably put them any higher than this. Number 7, I've got the Packers. They are above the Buccaneers because they had a much better performance than the Buccaneers, although the Buccaneers still had a great performance against the Eagles. The Packers were able to put up 50 points, though. Their offense looks really hot. They're one of the hottest teams in the NFL. I only have them so low because they're super young, inexperienced, and the other teams seem to be more explosive. But the Packers are one of the hottest teams in the NFL. They look like a really good team, but I can't really reasonably put them above the rest of the teams. In at number 6, I've got the Houston Texans. They also look like one of the hottest teams, but for this time for the AFC, they were able to take down the Cleveland Browns, who I would argue were a better team than the Dallas Cowboys even. Only by a little bit, but still, it was a really impressive performance by C.J. Stroud. It was impressive that they were able to take down a team with as much experience as the Browns and Joe Flacco, who had been playing as hot as they had been. And it was just a really, really good all-around performance, both offensive and defensively for the Texans. They look like a complete team, and it's really surprising, but they made it to the playoffs. They won a playoff game, and they're doing well. And at number 5, I've got the Chiefs. They look like of the big 5 Super Bowl contenders, they look like the worst. They did have a really nice game against the Dolphins. Their defense played great. Their offense actually looked good for the first time in a very long time. Mahomes actually had receivers to throw to. They just are only down here because of how they performed most of the regular season. They did have those offensive struggles. Receivers were not there. Receivers were dropping balls. And so just because of that, I do have a little less faith in them. However, it is Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. You can never count them out. In at number 4, I've got the Detroit Lions. They look like one of the best NFC teams, if not definitely the second best. They look unbelievable on offense. They have incredible weapons. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta. Their run game is unstoppable with Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. They look unstoppable on offense. Their biggest downfall is that their pass defense is really not that good. Their run defense is amazing, but their pass defense is a liability, and I wouldn't be surprised if that cost them a chance in the playoffs. Number 3, I've got the Bills. They are the second best team in the AFC, as their record and their standing implies. They do get home field advantage for this upcoming matchup, and they look like one of the hottest teams coming out of the second half of the season, as they were at 6-6 at one point, and then finished the season with a 6-game win streak, then won a playoff game, and in that playoff game they looked amazing. So I do have them above all these other teams because they've recently been playing well and they've been on a winning streak for a while. This team looks really good on offense. Their defense has really stepped up, and I wouldn't be surprised if they're able to win a few more games. In at number 2, I've got the best NFC team, the San Francisco 49ers. The only team they're below is the Ravens because they got beaten by the Ravens a few weeks ago. The Ravens able to take down these really good teams such as the 49ers and the Dolphins. But the 49ers have also been able to take down good teams. They've taken down all the NFC opponents, such as the Eagles, such as the Cowboys. They've got a tough matchup against the Packers, seeing as the Packers are really hot. But the 49ers should be able to take care of business. They are the best team in the NFC. They have the 1 seed for a reason. And I'd be pretty surprised if they didn't make it on to the NFC Championship or even the Super Bowl. But in at number 1, I've got the Ravens. They've been able to take down almost any team. Their biggest downfall this season was their division rivals, which none of them are left in the playoffs, which is great news for them. The Ravens do not lose to NFC teams, so if they make the Super Bowl, they're likely to win, as Lamar Jackson has only lost to one NFC team in his career. But all around, this is the most balanced team. Their offense is great. Their defense is the best in the entire league. It looks unstoppable on defense, and they're able to take down really good opponents, which you can't say for all of these contenders. So, therefore, they're in at number 1. The Ravens are the best team in football. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe and leave comments. I'll be posting on YouTube and Spotify and Apple Podcasts, so check me out at Stadium Stats on any of those platforms. And I really appreciate you guys tuning in and listening. I'll talk to you guys next week. Tune in for the championship games, and I really look forward to it. Thanks so much for tuning in. See you guys next time. Peace.